Thank you so much. That's him signalling that we've got the movie sorted for tonight. So that's great news. That'll be at 6 or 7. Luke, the star of the movie, is here to ask questions. So if you hang around after Deb, have some dinner, talk a bit, and we'll show this movie Green Light in an hour or two, which has got a big reputation. It's a new movie. I've been a big fan of Deb's for a long time. She's been a cannabis law reformer for decades, and first time she's been here talking, and I really appreciate you coming. Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Michael.
Good?
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Michael. Okay, I suppose I should start with the MCUA and who we are. The MCUA is the Medical Cannabis Users Association of Australia. It was founded in 2014 by Gail Hester. Gail founded the MCUA after she lost her own daughter Sarah to bowel cancer. She didn't know about cannabis oil at the time when Sarah was going through chemo, and it wasn't until some years afterwards that she heard about someone else who had exactly the same cancer as her daughter and who had cured themselves with cannabis oil. So she didn't want anyone else to go through what their family had gone through without that knowledge, and she started the MCUA. A few months later, I stumbled across it on Facebook. I'd been using cannabis since the 1980s. I had a spinal injury in the 1980s and had to have spinal surgery. The anti-inflammatory medications and the painkillers just weren't doing it, and someone said to me, "Why don't you smoke weed?" Now, I'd never even been near cannabis before. I was in my late 20s, and I eventually thought, okay, well, I've got to try something. This isn't working. They had me on Rohypnol of a night time to sleep, and I still wasn't sleeping. And the very first time I used the smoked cannabis, I noticed a difference in my pain levels and the muscle spasming in my back. I also found that if I used too much cannabis, I went to sleep, so I was able to wean off the Rohypnol without any withdrawal symptoms. There are a lot of other symptoms that go along with PTSD, including like nightmares and insomnia. Well, they all just disappeared as well. So I was convinced that this was the right thing for me. But because society told me I was a recreational user for 30 years, that's how I looked at myself. In 2012, I developed a terminal autoimmune disease. It's a progressive disease. It's going to get worse, not better. I went through all the mainstream treatment options that they had, everything from prostaglandin infusions over 3 days to Viagra and nitroglycerin patches. Nothing worked. So all I had left to offer me, it was pain relief, because this is a high pain condition, and quite frankly, opiates make me crazy. You know, so I didn't want to have anything to do with them. So around about that time was when I first stumbled across the MCUA, and I thought, what's this cannabis oil stuff? So I went home and I made some, and from the very first dose, I noticed a difference in my symptoms. Along the way, I found out that THC and high THC as an immune modulator is the reason why my disease has been slowed considerably, because it was progressing very quickly. So there are lots of reasons why I need cannabis and high THC cannabis at that to treat all of my conditions. Problem being is that I have tried to get a prescription because I'm a public hospital patient, and because Queensland public hospital doctors are not prescribing, I can't get prescribed. So I was making my own oil and growing my own plants, and I was arrested for it. So I'm now going through the judiciary and fighting that under medical necessity. Sorry, I've got to get back to my notes. So my court case, I'm pleading medical necessity. It's been dragging out now since 2017, but I'm hopeful that in the next few weeks I'll have a trial date. But in Queensland, it's a bit strange. We don't have a common law defence in Queensland. What we can do to defend ourselves is, for medical necessity, is there's a part in the Drugs Misuse Act which states that Unlawfully means without authorisation, justification or excuse. Now, I tried for 5 years to get authorisation, and my medical conditions avail me of the justification and excuse. So that's what we'll be fighting. I've also got multiple letters from specialists at various Queensland public hospitals all stating that they can't prescribe. As far as the cannabis access clinics are concerned, yes, there are a lot of people who are being able to access through those clinics. However, those of us who are socio-economically disadvantaged, I'm on a disability support pension, I can't even afford the consultations, let alone the costs of the medicines. Now, I heard Dr. Tay say give a price of about $150 for 4 to 6 weeks. In our experience, now MCUA has over 18,000 online members on our Facebook group, and from the information that we're collecting, people are paying up to $800 for a 30 ml bottle, and for some people that's lasting 2 and 3 days. We have a survey out at the moment for people who have gone through the application process. So if you have gone through the application process, please go to our Facebook group and search out our survey because we're trying to accrue information. At the present time, it's saying that we've had 122 people so far answer the survey regarding people who have been prescribed legal cannabis. 23 of the 122 are paying over $1,000 a month for their medicines, and 57 of the 122 are paying over $500 a month. MCUA. Yeah, MCUA of Australia. If you look for that, we have a national group and we also have groups in each state as well. So even if I could get a prescription, which I can't afford to buy the product. And also in our statistics, 50% of the prescriptions that are being approved by the TGA are being left at the pharmacies because the patients can't afford to pick up their prescriptions, or they can't afford it to sustain that price over a period of time. And the largest, 69% of the people who have answered have said that they rate the ease of access in the system as very dissatisfied. So if you have a look for our patient satisfaction survey, if you've been through the application process, we also have a petition going at the moment. Now, it's a petition regarding the delivery model that is presently in use, where we're saying that the delivery model that they've set up federally has failed. It has failed for the majority of patients, it focuses too much on a corporate model, where this corporate standardised medical model has not worked anywhere else in the world. They all had their dispensary, so people can go in and they can do their strain selection, because even if you and I have the same condition, we would need different strains because of the different cannabinoid levels and terpene levels, even if we had the same disease, because our natural makeup is different, and that's why there is a little bit of trial and error in the beginning. So we're petitioning the Senate to change to do an independent review. Now, we don't want the politicians. There's some advocates out there are asking for a Senate review into this, or some kind of political intervention. We believe that the politicians have botched it up until now. There is a let me find the right page. Sorry, I didn't make up these dot points and I'm getting a little bit confused here. There's a council. Okay. A new council was appointed this year. And this is a council that advises who is set up by the ODC and who advises the Health Minister about all things related to cannabis use. Now, when the council was first started some years ago, there were 15 members. There are 13 now. 8 of the original council have been reappointed and there are 5 new faces. Many of the original council were anti-cannabis proponents in their previous lives prior to it becoming legal. So we've had a lot of those replaced. Of the 5 new faces, one's conducting a clinical trial using vaporised cannabis for palliative care. One's a nurse practitioner and policy advisor for a palliative care organisation. And one is still an anti-cannabis campaign public servant in Jeanette Young, who is the head of Queensland Health. The 2 remaining members are an unknown quantity at the moment, but this seems like a reasonable mix, except there's no patient advocate representative to voice the public's and the end users' contribution to this. But we think that is a better choice for an independent review into the delivery system rather than placing it back in the hands of the politicians who have pulled the wool over everyone's eyes and who have used us as a political football and to gain points and votes whenever it suits their agenda at that time. So we don't have very much faith in the political system doing the right thing for patients in the community. We feel that how many years of politically weighted inquiries will it take to change the rules to ensure affordability? In a press release from Greg Hunt in August this year, we heard a recently completed review of the Narcotics Act 1967 recommends major congestion busting initiatives for medical cannabis cultivation, production and manufacturing that will apply to the whole sector. The Minister for Health said the government had agreed in principle to adopt all 26 recommendations of the independent review conducted by Professor John McMillan. MCUA believe a similar 3-year independent review of patient satisfaction should also be undertaken, and this could be best carried out by this council, whose role it is to provide advice to the Minister for Health on issues relating to the medicinal use of cannabis and the implementation of the regulatory system under the Narcotics Act of 1967. So once again, if you've been through the approval process, please have a look at the survey. We all know that the fairest system for everyone would be to remove cannabis prohibition altogether, which would open up for everyone to be able to home grow, for co-ops, for boutique growers who want to grow specialised strains, and then you've got the industrial applications as well. But at the present time, we're just trying to lobby for laws to make it safer and more affordable access for patients in the community. I think that's about it. Has anyone got any questions? If you want to join the MCUA, we do have a not-for-profit association where we're lobbying government for change, and we do like education events under the Silver Tour banner at the present time, where we go out and we teach people about cannabis medicine, how it works in your body, how to grow it, how to do all of the extraction methods, so that if you're in a situation where you need to do it for yourself, you have all of those skills to do so. There are no illegal products used at any of these events. Like we'll do a rosemary oil extraction, or we'll make lemongrass butter or something to that effect, so that you're learning the skills, and then when you go home you can use whatever herb you choose to use. But if you'd like to join the association, you can do that through our website, which is all listed on Facebook. So if you have a look at MCUA on Facebook. So has anyone got any questions? Yes, love.
It's not a question, it's a statement. But big farmers, mainstream drugs, we're talking about building a $1 trillion industry here. So, of course, they're going to tap into this in any which way they can. But it's going to be a fight, like everything else that's wrong with this planet.
I think what they're failing to realise at the moment is that the cannabis pie in Australia is big enough for everybody. Yes, there are going to be people who want to buy their products from a pharmacy through their doctor. And we're not saying that that needs to be changed. What we're saying is the herbal side of it, the side where we want a home grow, the side where we want to have co-ops. We know, we need those laws changed. And the only way we're going to do that is if everybody, and I don't just mean the people here or the people in our group, but everybody who cares about this, not just contacts their politicians, their state and federal politicians once. Do it regularly. Do it once a week. Say, what have you done about making this legal for me this week? Don't let the pressure off, and get everybody who are in your networks to do the same thing until such time as people keep the pressure on them. While they're getting away with this and they're only getting 1 or 2 messages every week or so, they can ignore it. Yes, love, sorry. I'm just a patient like everybody else, and the way I look at it is if I don't get up and fight for this, how can I expect anybody else to do it for me? And when you look around, there really aren't that many people out there who are standing up and saying, no. We need everyone to start standing up, to start coming to these rallies. I hear young ones say, like protests, they don't work. They're not old enough to remember them working, and they have been. And do you know that since 1974 they removed the citizenship education classes, anything that had anything to do with how the political system worked, what the responsibilities of the politicians were, even our constitutional rights. They were all removed from our curriculums in 1974. Exactly. So, they don't know what they don't know. And because they're not being taught these things, they don't know that they do work and that people standing up as one can make huge change. But at the present time, it's getting people to stand up and stand behind us is the problem. Anyone else got any? Yes, Don.
How did Canberra happen recently to get the permission to grow 2 plants?
That was not a state, a territory. That would say our state government in Queensland, because I'm a Queenslander, or New South Wales, wherever the case may be, your state government bringing in that bill and changing the laws to suit.
Surely that's just the start of the others saying yes.
One would hope so.
That's just the politicians not wanting to have their stones.
No, but there is
Yeah, there is, because the federal laws.
The federal law has not been changed. So
Yes.
you can grow it, but you can still get arrested.
Yeah, what we would like from the MCUA is to see the laws changed at a federal level. Take it out of the hands of the states altogether. Remove cannabis from the illicit. And you could still leave the pharmaceutical model on the schedule. You could still leave that at S4 and S8, but everything at S9, all of the homegrown stuff, all of the botanical herbal cannabis that at the present time is classed as S9 and illegal and of no benefit, move that to the herbal schedule, so that it can be opened up for the rest of us. Even if we need to go and apply for a licence, I'd apply for a licence to be able to grow for myself. I wouldn't have to spend the last 3 years going through the judicial system fighting this to try and say, you've got to change these laws because they're wrong. Hopefully at the end of all of this, I'll get a not guilty plea and it will be a precedent for everyone else to follow. But at this stage, we're still trying to change their attitudes towards this. For instance, at one stage, I've got I started off self-representing, but along the way I had lots of health issues, including spending 7 months in hospital having this leg amputated, which is part of my disease as well. I subpoenaed Queensland Health Hierarchy to give evidence and produce documents, and they had Crown Law step in and have the subpoenas set aside. So I've been going through the appeals process of having those subpoenas overturned. Now, during one of my visits to the Supreme Court for this appeal, I was before Justice Sofronoff, who's the President of the Supreme Court in Queensland, and he said, "Send the details of your case," he said to this person at the Supreme Court. "We have a pool of barristers and lawyers in the background who might be interested in doing some pro bono work." So in the last few weeks I've gotten myself 2 barristers and a legal team to help me with mine, and I won't have to argue it myself anymore, which is going to help me with my condition, because stress is a trigger. And I was just getting so anxious and so stressed. And to be honest, I don't have a legal mind. I was just trying to take it all in for each individual hearing and cram the night before. We're done, are we?
Are we done? Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody.